I had two different agents reach out to me. I met with both of them, ended up choosing one. And he was my agent the entire time I was overseas. So
you went directly overseas after college?
I actually had one semester of school to finish. So I told him, I said, hey, I promised my mom I would graduate.
Wow.
So I gotta, I have to stay, finish school. So I ended
didn't
up,
defer
I went
or
overseas
delay
in
that?
December. I didn't delay. I stayed, finished school, graduated in December.
How was your
and
mom
went
with that?
over.
Was she happy with that?
She was super happy. Yeah, she.
Good son.
That was the one promise, that I gave her before I went off to college, that I was gonna finish.
We're sitting here with Johnny Dukes, head coach of Rancho Verde Mustangs.
Thanks for having me,
Since
man.
21?
My third year, so yeah, that would be 21. Yeah.
So when you join that institution with that history, is it daunting? Are you nervous? Tell me about that.
I felt like it was my time. I had been a good assistant at Colony for 6 years.
Yep.
Came from a winning culture.
Had some success there.
Had some success.
Talk a little bit about that.
So I met Jerry DeFabius. I think it was like 2014, 15-ish. He was looking for some young guys to come onto his staff. I had just finished up playing overseas, probably a year or two prior to that.
Talk about playing overseas a little bit.
Yeah, so I graduated from the University of San Francisco. Immediately
You were transferred from San Bernardino Valley.
JUCO product.
JUCO, yeah. JUCO
grind,
product.
so.
And you, I'm sorry, I should have introduced you properly. Number 42, 6'8", small and power forward,
Right.
Johnny Dukes. So go ahead.
Yeah, no. So after I graduated, I played 6 years overseas in Turkey, Ukraine, Belgium, Japan. Also played 1 year in the NBA D League, as it was called at the time. Now it's the G League. And then I finished up playing. Kind of had a couple injuries. Probably could have played another year or two, but I had my
You broke
degree.
your hand senior year in college, too,
Yes.
did you not?
I had 3 surgeries in a span of 11 months.
Wow.
So going into my original senior year, I broke my
At
foot.
University of San Francisco.
Yes.
University of San Francisco, yep.
I broke my foot, so I ended up taking a red shirt that year.
How was that? Because usually red shirts are for young men coming into it. Younger dudes.
So you have a regular red shirt, and then you also have the medical red shirt.
That
So
obviously
just
was
in
a
case
medical red
for-
shirt.
Just in case for an injury.
Yep.
So I ended up. So when I got there from JUCO, I was very scrawny.
So if people aren't watching this and they're listening right now, I would say you're not scrawny. You're a well-built dude.
I am now.
Okay,
yeah.
so how long did it take? So you're 6'8".
Yeah.
You have muscle on you. You play down
A little
low.
bit, yeah.
Which
Inside,
means
outside.
and you had to be able to inside and outside, but you had to be able to give and receive some punishment.
Yeah.
Did you have to build muscle
Right.
in college, overseas?
So I mean, again, I was scrawny up until I got to USF. The coaches really wanted me to put on some weight, so I got on an extensive weight program. I gained like 15 pounds, all muscle, in about a year.
Legs, core,
Legs,
shoulders,
everything, arms, everything. So total body. But what ended up happening, from what the doctor told me, it was too much weight too fast for my body.
Yep.
So I ended up with stress fractures in both feet at the same time. And then they made me some custom-made orthotics. The left one ended up breaking second game of the season. So I took a red shirt year.
That had to be very challenging.
It was tough. It was my first time with a real injury, other than like an ankle sprain and not playing. So that was.
How does one come back from that? Because it's part of the game, unfortunately, more and more.
It is. It's mentally tough when you're young. You just got to power through it.
Is there any set of techniques or any insight you would give people who are going through that right now?
Just working hard and taking it serious. So leading up into my second injury, I tore my meniscus almost immediately when I came back. So that was probably 8 months after the foot break. And then I wouldn't say I rehabbed like I should have. And I was young. Just thought I was going to bounce back.
You're young.
I ended up tearing it again later when I was a professional because I didn't do it right the first time. But following the meniscus tear, a couple months later, right when the next senior year was starting, I tore the ligament in my thumb. So they were saying I was the most expensive athlete at the school because I had 3 surgeries in a span of 11 months.
You're the athlete,
That was a tough year for me, but I was able to power through it. Had a slow start at the beginning of my senior year because I hadn't played in a year. I was trying to get back in shape.
Now you pointed to your left hand. Is that where you?
And my left hand, yes. You can see the scar right here.
I'm looking. Oh man, that's hardcore.
So I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
So it was my dominant hand.
Now,
so,
to people, because it's a little theater of the mind radio, it's along the base of the bone, and it looks
Yeah.
like what, about a 1.5 to 2 inch stitch, maybe 2.5,
Yeah.
and then cross stitches as well.
Right.
Okay.
So I ended up coming down, and like my thumb just bent back.
On the floor, you ground?
Yeah, on the floor, yeah.
floor.
It was kind of like an illegal screen situation. I got clipped. I put my hand, but when I put my hand down, my thumb kept going further than like normal. But I got up. It wasn't like an excruciating pain.
Yeah.
So I got up, and you know, I'm thinking I'm still good. And then my teammate passed me the ball, and when I squeezed it, my thumb, that's when I felt that it was something not right. So I go downstairs to the trainer after practice, and so, you know, he's doing the thing, he wiggles it around, and that was the time I got to see it. So he wiggled it, and it popped this way, and I about fainted. And then so he was like, yeah, I think you tore the ligament.
So it popped back towards your chest, your sternum.
towards me. So that was, it wasn't super painful, but it was definitely something wrong there.
How long did it take you to come back from that? So they cut it.
So they first of all, the doctor asked me they could do a local anesthesia, and he asked me that I want to watch it.
And do what you said.
I said, if you don't put me under, I'm gonna pass out anyway.
Right.
So I said, no, put me to sleep.
Yeah.
So they put me down, you know, stitched it up, got me back. I can't remember what the timetable was, but I missed probably the first like 8 to 10 games of my senior year. Then it took me like another 8 to 10 games to get back in shape.
And how many games are you playing during college?
I probably 12 to 15 games.
So you basically have only half your senior year.
Half of my senior year.
And you're trying to not only have a great college experience, but showcase what you can do for the next level.
Right.
Was that a stressful moment?
I mean, at the time, I'm not really thinking about, you know, I'm not going to be able to go overseas, or I got to perform well to go overseas. I just wanted to get back on the floor. Like, because again, I had never had a serious injury, never missed a high school or game in high school. So I was at every practice, every game, always healthy. So it was challenging just because mentally you want to be out there, you want to be with your team, and you want to do what you love. I've been playing basketball since I was 5 years old. So it was hard, but
hard because you're sitting there watching the game that you love and not able to participate. Hard because you are not able to find the kind of motivation you need to recover in the same way or to rehab.
I was hard because I wasn't out there playing, and then it was kind of almost like a why me. Like I just kept getting injured after never being injured. So in 3 months, I got to go into the knife 3 times after never having more than this ankle sprain. It's like what am I not doing right?
Yeah. So your senior year turns out pretty good.
Yeah, I would say like my last 10 games, I was probably averaging close to double figures, but again, I had a very slow start because I'm out of shape, I got no rhythm, trying to get back into the rotation. But my best basketball was at the very end of my last 10 to 12 games of my
So what
senior
happened
year.
after that in terms of how did you find yourself overseas? Like, was it a circuitous path? Did you get to go directly there?
As soon as we lost in the conference tournament and basically my college career was over, I had 2 different agents reach out to me. I met with both of them, ended up choosing one. And he was my agent the entire time I was overseas. So
you went directly overseas after college?
I actually had 1 semester of school to finish. So I told him, I said, hey, I promised my mom I would graduate.
Wow.
So I gotta, I have to stay, finish school. So I ended
didn't
up, I
defer
went
or
overseas
delay
in
that?
December. I didn't delay. I stayed, finished school, graduated in December.
How was your
and
mom
went
with that? Was
over.
she happy with that?
She was super happy at that. Yeah, she.
Good son.
That was the one promise, that I gave her before I went off to college that I was gonna finish.
I see. So then you go to where next?
I went to Turkey in January. So after graduation,
you were in Istanbul or where?
Istanbul, yeah. Team called ITU.
So had you ever been overseas before?
No.
You land in Istanbul,
Yeah.
which looks and feels and is a foreign country.
It's different.
The smells, the
Everything.
vibe, the energy,
The
food, the outlets,
yeah.
the people, the culture. How was that?
It was definitely a culture shock. Obviously, growing up in the IE my entire life, I've only
IE
been
being
around
Inland Empire,
yeah. Only been around people who look like me, who speak the same language as me.
Yeah.
So
Inland Empire, Southern California.
yeah. So to go overseas, where I can't just go into a grocery store and say, "Hey, where is the Gatorade?" Like it's kind of a culture shock. So
Did you learn some of the language?
a little bit? I picked up phrases here and there.
Was that empowering to do?
It's fun.
Once you were able to pull them off and actually get something in return?
Yeah, it's fun learning them. But when you have teammates from whatever country you're in, they always teach you the bad words first. So,
Right.
And those are kind of the ones that stick.
I think that's the rule, right?
Yeah.
So you're walking around the streets of Istanbul. You're playing in which league?
The Turkish second league.
And so that means you're going around that region?
All of Turkey. Yeah.
Yep.
So northern, southern, it's all throughout the country.
You're playing in front of how many people?
It depends. We had a pretty decent crowd, a few thousand, just depending. There are some teams that are very, very big, like the EuroLeague and stuff.
Yep.
They play in front of 15 to 20,000. We didn't have that many, but kind of like a college atmosphere.
Yeah. Your team was an international conglomerate, right? It was a made up of not just Turkish players and you. They're from all over the world.
No, it was so kind of whatever league you play in is you're playing with. So for Turkey, for example, you have all Turkish teammates, and then you're allowed a certain number of foreigners. So they can be from wherever. It's usually Americans, but you can have a guy from Bosnia or Colombia or whatever country, but it's typically American. So in every country, every league is different. So some only allow 2 Americans, some allow up to 5, some have unlimited number.
What was this league? How many?
2 Americans per team. Yeah.
So when did you adjust? Or is it still a culture shock? Are you still recovering?
No, it took me a few months. I remember getting sick as soon as I got there. And they said that was kind of common for the Americans because
What was it, food? Or
yeah, I guess the oil, the grease that they cook in is different from what we use. But I went and looked for the closest thing to American, so I was in the mall, and I got KFC. Like I ordered,
well, of course you would.
I ordered wings, and I got so sick. Ended up in a hospital. They had to put an IV in me. I was dehydrated. I was throwing up all night. It was bad. So then I'm thinking like, man, I need to go home. Like this might not be for me. But a couple days later, everything was great. Ended up having a really good year there, and kind of got used to the travel, the long flights, and
that's an entire subset of techniques right there, right?
Yeah.
Developing some habit or routine around all that travel.
Yeah.
Keeping your body in shape, being rested enough, eating properly.
Yeah, it's like so it was a 13-hour flight, and obviously the longest flight I had been on. I think it was like 3 hours to Chicago, and 10 hours from Chicago to Istanbul. So it's a different experience, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like it kind of helped, make me who I am today. And I had a great time doing it. I don't regret it at all.
So you played in Turkey, and beyond that, where did you go?
After Turkey, my ex-wife at the time, my wife at the time, was pregnant, so I had a son. So I didn't want to leave his first year of life. I wanted to be there.
Yep.
So I ended up staying home, and that's when I played in the D-League. I went to the tryout in L.A. for the L.A. Defenders. And in the tryout, they only keep one player. So with the D-League, you can keep one player from, the tryout or the home area, and then everybody else has to go into the draft. So I went to the tryout, they chose me, so I'm assuming I was the best player there. So I didn't have to go into the draft, and I was able to stay home in LA, in the area, I grew up in, so I was able to be around my son. And then that following year, I went back to Turkey to the same team that I had played on the previous year.
They knew that you were taking effectively a paternity leave or something.
Yeah, basically.
So comparing the D-League, what I call the OG league, the D-League, to Turkish professional league, is there a qualitative difference in style of play? Is there a qualitative difference in level of play, talent of play?
Everywhere you go is a little bit different. Turkey is really physical, especially like the second league. I used to hear that it was more physical than the first league, and they allow like a lot of pushing, and there's just like this stigmatism that Europeans are soft.
Yeah.
It's not exactly that. They just play a little bit different. But yeah, so Turkish Division second league was really, really physical. And then another thing that's very common with guys that go overseas immediately is I got called for maybe 4 or 5 travels the first game, just because their rule, you have to put the ball on the floor. In America, we can catch and take 2 steps.
Yep.
And, so it's a little bit different.
Which is counterintuitive because the Euro step seems like they give you 9 steps.
Right.
Maybe it's on the back end versus the front end.
So it was a little bit different. It's an adjustment. At the time they had the trapezoid lane.
Yeah.
So it was the wider paint. Yeah. So everything is different. The ball
we call
is
it the
different.
play school lane. My first lane.
Yeah.
It's no Spurgeon. So when you're talking to some players who everyone has most players have the aspirations to go pro. Most will not, just by law of averages. Some will be able to play in Europe. Would you suggest that's a good thing for people to aspire to? Would you encourage your players to play overseas if they could?
Absolutely. Everybody can't make the NBA, like you said. Less than 1% of Americans make it to the NBA.
Yep.
So your chances are slim to none. But when I was in high school, my coach brought a couple overseas guys to the gym, and we were playing against them. And I was competing at a high school level. So I was like, man, I could play overseas. So that's kind of when I knew, obviously, if I didn't make it to the league, like, I could still make money playing basketball.
Yeah.
So
that must have been a pretty empowering idea.
Yeah, doing something that you love and getting paid to do it, I mean, why not? So I encourage any young person to, if you don't make it to the NBA, shoot for overseas. One, you get to experience different cultures, get to see, different ways that people live and how they do things. And I think it's helped make me a more well-rounded person.
And that brings you to where we are now, which is you are the coach of Rancho Verde basketball, the Mustangs.
Yeah.
You're still doing something you love, but you transitioned into coaching.
Right.
Why did you start coaching? Why not just leave and go to another profession entirely?
So when I finished playing, I knew, I've been playing basketball since I was 5. I knew I wanted to be around the game of basketball, but I had no idea I would love coaching. I mean, I got into it because it seemed like the easy thing to do. Like, I played, now let me go teach it to the next generation. But I really fell in love with the coaching, the X's and O's, the chess match. I like going up against the other coach and seeing what they run. And I'm a defensive guy, so if you watch my team play,
you were an all-around player in college, though. You could run the court.
Yeah.
You had a shot.
Yeah.
You block shots.
Yeah.
Rebounder, defense. Truly an all-around player.
I was kind of a Swiss Army knife. I'm still the all-time leading shot blocker at my high school, which is I've been out 21 years now.
That's a nice one. That's the nice one to own.
So I always my coach made sure that we play hard, so that was kind of bred inside me. Yeah. So I actually coach the same way that he does, like the shell drill. I still implement it the exact same way that he taught me when I was in high school. There's a wrinkle or two here and there because obviously the game changes, but I just believe in playing hard. And I was the type of guy I could put on the floor. I wouldn't say I was a shooter, but you couldn't leave me open either. I could make a shot.
Yeah.
I was more of a slasher, high flyer, super athletic, dunker, but I rebounded well. I played point guard my senior year in high school.
Senior year in high school, played point guard at 6'8".
I was at 6'8", so I was kind of a point forward before it was popular.
Well, I was going to say that because when I was coming up, and I think it was transitioning when you were running, usually if you were 6'2" and under, you were the guard. 6'2" or 6'2" and a millimeter over, you were small or power forward, and then the higher you got,
So what happened with my high school team, we were really good. We were ranked like 13 in the nation my senior year. But our point guard was young, and he wasn't bad, but he wasn't ready. And we were playing a national schedule. So when teams would pressure us, we started turning the ball over.
Yep.
And me being 6'8", now, and when I was young, I always tried to be a ball handler. People would get mad because I saw
my book.
They would try
ball handling and shooting as a taller man.
They would try to stick me inside, but I always loved to dribble.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of basketball handle. So my coach noticed that. So he was like, "Okay, Johnny, like you're gonna bring the ball up." So being 6'8", I could see over all traps. When teams pressure us.
Were you happy to have that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I was kind of doing it before it was popular.
Yeah.
So I would say the one guy who was doing it like before me for sure was Lamar Odom.
Yeah.
Who was like kind of a point forward at Rhode Island when
he was one of one in that era.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost unheard of.
So I'm not sure if that's when my coach got it, because when I was in high school, he was probably in college. I don't know how many years we were apart.
So you're saying you're responsible for the next? You're responsible for LeBron James.
I don't want to take credit for it, but I was a point forward in high school,
All right.
and it wasn't that term was not here yet. It wasn't relevant.
I love it.
So
When you're coaching now, are you looking at positions related to height? Are you looking to figure out a puzzle, a composite team that'll help you move through the league? Are you drafting or are you recruiting for position? How do you build your team?
well, no, we're not allowed to recruit in a public school in CIF, but I believe in positionless basketball. I have a lot of really good guards, but my 4-man, he's kind of playing the 5 for us, but he shoots it really well. So I'm not going to stick him aside in the post when he's a deadly 3-point shooter. So I believe whatever your skill set is, be that, and then I just demand a certain thing on the defensive end of the floor. So
That's been successful.
yeah, I mean, we got to the CIF championship my very first year, lost a heartbreaker. My
That's
second
remarkable. Were you nervous about that?
year, no, because I had been in that game as a player my senior year for the first time in school history, and I coached in it twice as an assistant. So that was my 4th CIF championship game.
So how much does that kind of experience, being exposed to that level of pressure or excellence, inform the way one, not just you, but one moves through the world as a coach?
I think it's vital. So perfect example, my team my senior year, we were, like I said, we were top 25 in the country. We went to the CIF championship for the first time in history.
Yeah.
We get there, the bright lights, the big stage at the Pond at the time, which is now the Honda Center. We weren't ready for the moment. We lose the game to Long Beach Poly, who we had beaten earlier in the year. Both of us are ranked in the top 25. But the perfect example, the following year, my best friend Sean Marshall was a junior on that very same team. They get back to that same game his senior year. Now he's been there.
Yep.
He's had the experience. He knows what it looks like, and they won the game.
So for people trying to understand what that means, is it the experience on the court? Is it the fact that there's, to your point, bright lights, a lot of people, distractions, or all the stimuli around the court? Because it's still 94 feet, still 10 feet.
Right.
up.
So we weren't used to the backdrop.
Yeah.
So the depth perception.
The literal backdrop.
Yeah,
They talk about
so-
when the NCAA finals happens in these big domes.
Yeah.
On the backside of that backdrop is 50 yards, 100 yards. Yeah.
Easily. So obviously being a high school kid, coming and playing in, where the Clippers played at the time, the biggest arena we had been in. Like I said, we weren't ready for the moment. We weren't ready for the stage. We were a really good team. We just hadn't experienced it. My coach, it was his first one ever. He ended up winning 2 more after that. But now, that following year, they go practice at Cal State San Bernardino just to get a look at what it's like. Because in high school, you're not used to seats behind the backboard.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see that in high schools. So that was something that he learned. He had them ready for it the next year. They won it. Unfortunate for me because I was a senior. But for Sean, who played in it back-to-back years, he lost it the first year, came back, won it the second year. So I think that experience is huge.
So is that what brings you here? High level of competition at the UA tournament?
Yeah.
We're here at MAP. It's a West Coast Elite tournament. Is that why you're here? Because of the level of competition, or what brings you here?
So first of all, I coach for a West Coast Elite, so I'm a West Coast Elite guy. I coached
Yeah.
their 15U team this year, this past summer.
For people wondering what that means, because we talked about you coaching Rancho Verde.
Right.
How do you coach that and that?
So it's kind of at different times. So I coach travel ball in the spring and the summer. We also have summer ball, but there's a month period where it's just high school,
Yeah.
and then the other month is just travel ball. So
And travel ball is the West Coast Elite of it all?
right,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of like a healthy relationship. But now basketball becomes year round. So you 11, 12 months a year, you're doing something with basketball.
So why come to, beyond being a coach with West Coast Elite, why come here to this tournament? Why bring
Because you
your
want to
guys?
play the best teams in Southern California. And you even get teams from, out of state that come to events like this. But you want to test yourself. So you want to go, you want to play the biggest and best teams and see where you are. That way, there's no wins or loss. We just won our first game. I'm not 1-0. It's fall ball. But we learned some stuff, some things we need to get better at. We dropped 2 yesterday, 2 very close games.
But you're developing a body of experience.
We figured out what we need to work on. And again, we lost by 1 point yesterday. But we had a couple of breakdowns defensively. We cleaned those up today. Now we're on the other side of the coin.
You're a father of basketball players.
Yeah.
How old are they?
My son is a sophomore now. And
He's
then
on your team, I assume?
No, he actually lives with his mom in L.A.,
Okay.
so he goes to Laces High School.
Okay.
So they're having their basketball tryouts right now, actually.
Do
And then-
you help him? Are you?
Yes, when I have him, I train him, try to do what I can to get him ready.
How tall is he?
He's about 6'1", 6'2" now.
Handles the rock pretty well?
Yeah, he's not bad. He's
Okay.
getting better.
Is he a lefty or righty?
He's right-handed, so unlucky for him.
All right,
I
yeah.
love being a lefty.
My son's
Yeah.
lefty.
Yeah,
It's
and I tried to make him left-handed when he was young.
Didn't
so
take?
When I handed him pencils and crayons, I would try to lead it towards the left hand.
tied his arm
But-
behind
yeah,
his back.
right. But he ended up being
We
right.
are who we are.
It is what it is.
So what's next for you? You're building a high school team. You're building a career. Where are you headed from here? Do you want to coach in the college game? Do you want to build out Rancho Verde to a powerhouse bigger than it already is?
I want to get Rancho Verde back to where it was just a few years ago. We have a rich history. That's a very rich program, which is why I took the job. I knew I could win there. I knew.
But you come in and it's a little down.
It was a little down when I came in.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to have a couple guys transfer in. My best player from last year, Jacob McFarland, is now at the University of Houston playing for Coach Sampson.
Congratulations.
My point guard, who was a junior on that team, is now a senior. He just committed to San Jose State. So they transferred in when I got the job.
And you're putting young men in college in D1 program.
That's the plan. I try to run my program like a college program. I just do what was taught to me, and I try to pour into these young guys because I want to see them realize their dreams. So we have study hall, we have a weight program, we have a conditioning program. We get out there on the track, we run in the bleachers, we get in the weight room, and but I'm big on books, I'm big on character, so the things that are off the floor, because if you don't handle those, you won't get to college. So for me, it's not just putting together a great team. I want to put together great young men that's going to do something great in the world, if it may not be in basketball.
Why do you do it?
Just to push the game forward. I mean, I think I feel like I'm a pretty good coach. I feel like I have some knowledge to give to the young guys. So why would I sit back and withhold that and just be a gatekeeper when I can open doors for guys who are trying to get to where I once was, and hopefully beyond. Hopefully one of my players one day gets to the NBA. That would be a dream of mine, to see them realize their dream. Because every kid that comes to play for you, every kid in this building, if you ask them right now, they'll tell you they want to play in the NBA. That's always a dream, always a goal. Not going to happen for probably most of them, unfortunately, but sports translates to life. So if it taught me to be disciplined, it taught me to be hardworking, it taught me teamwork. So all of those things you need in everyday life. You need it in your relationship, you need it in your work life, you need it just getting along with people in the everyday world.
So for some parent who wants their child to play with you, what are the things their student athletes should work on?
So first and foremost, they're a student first and athlete second.
Okay.
So I check grades and attendance bi-weekly. So every other week, I'm doing one of those. I'm checking their attendance or I'm checking their grades. I pop into their classes when I'm on campus. I'm making sure I have all the security guards on speed dial. I send out an email to the entire school.
Yep.
If you have anybody on this list and they're not performing like they need to, whether it's academically or behavior-wise, please reach out to me. So they love having me on campus because they know I don't play when it comes to the things off the floor. Again, I don't want just good basketball players. I want good young men. So my team does a good job of holding each other accountable. If there's a guy that's constantly being late, if another guy sees him in the hallway, he's going to say, hey, get to class. I'll make the whole team run if we start to have too many tardies. So, we're just doing things like that just so they can become well-rounded young men.
My last question for you. Talked about some of your darkest moments as a player. What is the bright spot? What is the bright spot been, or what is the highlight been? If you can quantify it in that way, or if you could.
Bright spot is just having a pretty long career, pretty successful career, having a job that I love, which was playing basketball. Again, being a team that got my school to the first CIF championship ever was a huge deal. And then winning 2 as a coach, losing 1 as a head coach, but hopefully I'm young enough to where I'm going to get to 3 or 4 or 5 more of those.
Yep.
And hopefully, we'll come out victorious. But nothing is more gratifying than seeing my players realize their dream. I think being a coach is more gratifying than being a player, because being a player is more personal. Being a coach, it's for others. So I love seeing them realize their dreams. I love seeing young people develop and get better. Like I thrive off of that. So if I see somebody who came in and wasn't as good and now, you know, they're a great player, I feel like I had a little hand in that. I definitely don't take all of the credit, but, you know, just being a part of that journey and watching them grow is special.
Rancho Verde basketball head coach Johnny Dukes, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. I wish you the best this year
all
in all your endeavors. I wish your team the best, the UA team. I wish your West Coast League UA team the best, as well as your Rancho Verde team. Thank you very much.
Man. Thank you very much.